What's the number one challenge for businesses today?
Workforce development, attracting, recruiting, and retaining people.
And that's why we created this podcast, designed for the frustrated CEO, the under-resourced recruiter, or the overworked manager, to give you the tools to tackle those WTF moments.
It's time to open another Workforce Therapy File.
Welcome back to the Workforce Therapy Files. Today, we're doing something really fun. It's the final in our series of interviewing the founders of our podcast. And we got Jamie Swaim, one of my favorite people. CEO,
After
president.
Molly's. I'm just kidding.
Supreme leader.
Grand Poobah.
Grand Poobah.
It's my personal preference.
So thanks for being here today, taking some time out of your busy schedule.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm going to kick it off with some questions for you, if you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. So this is us interviewing Jamie, as if we just didn't even know her.
Okay.
So we may know some of the answers to these, but
I'm
maybe not.
Like I don't.
Okay. I bet we're going to be surprised. Jamie, why is HR still misunderstood in the executive room?
I think it's because the day-to-day interactions before you become an executive with HR are support-focused, they're compliance-focused, and the further the individuals go in the HR space, the more it's strategy-focused. And sometimes people ascend to the executive space before they've ever seen HR as a strategy. I think that's the biggest issue. And so they still want to interact as like, hey, can you pull this report for me? Can you file this for me? Instead of, can you help me think through how our people will be impacted by this business need or this projected route that my company is going to go down? I think that's the biggest area that's misunderstood.
Yeah, that's good. And it's true. I mean, it's easy to get disconnected or not be connected in the first place.
Yeah.
Well, what's the difference between HR support and people strategy?
Yeah. I think the biggest difference is that support's in the moment. Largely, it is reacting to what the challenges of right now, inappropriate behavior, performance concern bubbled up. How do I help you through this, navigate this tricky water moment that you're experiencing right now? Strategy to me is, how do I make sure that the things we're putting in place right now align to where you want the company to go? But it takes being partners in that and understanding where companies want to go to be able to put strategies in place.
Would you say it's proactive thinking over reactive thinking?
Absolutely.
And so I'm going to go off script a little bit.
That's fine.
What's a quick thing that people can do to be better at that strategic long-term planning and thinking?
Yeah. In terms of people.
Mm-hmm. In terms of their people, in terms of talent.
I think the biggest one for me is really creating a workforce plan. Every year, companies get together and they say, what are the goals that we're going to have for this year? What are the budgets we're going to have for this year? Mm-hmm. And sometimes those are the only two things that leaders will do together to plan for their company. And they're not thinking through what that means from a people perspective. So you get surprise things like, we need to hire 45 people because we're supposed to start this on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And you're like, gosh, I wish I'd known that whenever I was putting together my team for this year, right? And those kinds of things can't continue to happen if you want a seamless execution. If you don't want to do things like we've cautioned on this podcast, like hiring quick or not building intentionality in how you scale and grow or contract.
Yeah.
Even having conversations of like, I'm not really sure that based on our sales forecast that we're going to be able to sustain this workforce. Okay, well, here's our turnover number. Do we want to just let natural attrition happen and not backfill it? Or are there other things that we'd like to do? We can have conversations about that up front that save you some of the things that you sacrifice and the trust that you have with the people that work there.
Yeah, good. I'm going to use a scary word in this next one called compliance. Mm-hmm. We've been talking in my company a lot about compliance because there's a new Americans with Disabilities Act law coming into effect in April. All websites, government, healthcare, all the major service websites have to be ADA compliant.
How will they? How? There's a lot
How will
of
they
things.
be ADA compliant?
ADA compliance for websites is visual and audio. So if somebody has a visual disability or can't hear, and there's audio videos on the site.
Yeah.
There's also color considerations around
colors.
colorblind.
Yeah, two similar colors of blue are sitting next to each other that are too close. People can't tell the difference.
Interesting.
Different fonts. The readers can't read them to people.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's a side.
Yes.
That's a side
Sorry, didn't
journey.
No, but we're all learning.
But I've been talking about compliance like half the day, every day for the last few weeks. So it's scary. People are like, "What? Comply? I have to comply?" Yes. It's a minimum of $115,000 fine.
Yeah.
So now, are they going to? Who knows if these compliances are going to be enforced or not? Somebody's going to have to call you out. Probably won't. But compliance is scary when people bring it up. So what's the biggest compliance risk companies are ignoring in the space of hiring and people and talent?
I think the biggest one from my perspective is when we're thinking about scaling and growth and ignoring the fact that compliance is bigger than just federal law. So every state in our country has a different set of requirements.
Yes.
And so choosing to scale might also mean that you need to choose how you're going to support your organization with additional requirements. And it can't always be absorbed by the two people you gave to the HR team. Mm-hmm. Right? So you're in 45 states. Well, that might mean that I have 2 more people that are necessary just to be able to do the basics. And that's not counting the other meaningful things that the function can offer. And it's not just in HR. That's true for safety. It's true for finance requirements, tax laws, how the unemployment's set up, how workers' comp is set up. All of it is down to the state line. And I don't think companies always think about that, especially if founders or growing company CEOs have not worked in that space before. Right? If they haven't hired an HR expert that they're spending time with, it may not be something that they pay attention to. The second one, though, that is also something I stay with my head on pivot right now is immigration laws. It's a growing space, and for some industries, you got to stay really connected to it, especially in rural medical settings, agriculture, people with highly skilled workforces where you've got individuals on a lot of visas. Paying attention to where we are from an immigration standpoint is going to be really important to make sure you have the right budgets and support to navigate it.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be scary, right?
It doesn't have to be scary, but here's the thing. We need to all accept the fact that the people that write these laws are not people that are executing the work. So they don't always write them in ways that are so clear that you're like, oh, okay, well, that's step 1. I understand that. And they don't always provide the tools to help you do it well. So finding someone who understands the ways that companies have bumped their heads on this is it's worth the time and it's worth the investment to have somebody that you can trust to help you navigate it.
Can I get an amen?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Can I ask you another off-script question?
Anytime.
That's just me. I'm sorry. I'm going to start with a compliment. So you are probably the most knowledgeable person when it comes to these type of topics, like the technicality of human resources.
That Jason knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know many, but no, but seriously, you really are. And whenever you dive into these things, it's like you could just keep going and keep going because you've seen so much. How did you learn all this? You're an encyclopedia. What's your backstory? This is about getting to know Jamie. So what's your backstory? How'd you get here? How did you become such a brainiac?
I think part of it is because I was born that way. No, I'm just kidding. I decided I was going to be in HR in middle school, which I know is not when a lot of people make those choices.
You were 12?
Yes. And I had a situation where one of my family members had applied for a position that they were already doing and had been doing it for 6 months, and they didn't get the job. And then the person that was hired, they were asked to train.
Oh,
for months. For months. It was a promotion. And then the hiring manager asked that person if they ever planned on losing weight. And I don't know whether or not the decision to do that was connected, right? But there's no way that you would disconnect it. if you were somebody who was on the receiving end of that. And I remember being in middle school and being like, what a dumb way to make business decisions. So when I got to high school, I had a whole conversation with my guidance counselor because this is pre-internet, just so we're clear. I had a conversation with my guidance counselor and I said, I just want to be part of how do you influence these kinds of decisions so that they're not made based on things that don't actually drive value. And for some reason, this was very interesting to me. It's like I grew a passion about it. So I got really involved in things like junior achievement and, those kinds of things. And I just enjoyed learning about it. So then I was looking at a college. My guidance counselor said there's 2 that we could find in Kentucky that had an HR track because it was just at the beginning of no longer calling it personnel.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so we were moving into this HR space, and here was the outlook. And I knew I wanted to affect business, but I didn't want to be an accountant, and I didn't want to work in finance. And this really spoke to me because I'm going to give you the generic thing that everybody who first gets started in HR says is I love people. But sorry, it gets on my nerves now. But at the beginning, that was how I felt too. I felt like, how can I help people? But then, because this is in the early parts of the internet, to get started, I had this crazy CEO. And if you're listening to this, you know exactly who you are. Crazy CEO who promoted me before I was ready.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'm going to give you 2 things. I'm going to give you an attorney that you can call. Shout out to Jim Smith. And I'm going to give you a consultant that you can use. Because I think you have the right heart and I think you have the right mind for things. But I know that there are going to be things that we're going to come across that you don't have experience to tackle. And I used those relationships in every possible way. I read every SHRM magazine. I dove into every piece of content that I could get to try to learn these things. I actually read the Family Medical Leave Act. Like I ordered that.
Nerd.
Right?
Totally.
I ordered it and the Fair Labor Standards Act, and I read it word for word because I thought I needed to. Okay? Which I don't know that you need to.
Not
half the stuff in
word.
there you don't even come across.
Yeah.
But that's how I grew my knowledge around these things because I thought that's what it meant to be in HR. And this was before I started learning other things. Long answer, I think, Jason, but...
Good answer.
Thank you. I'm a nerd, I guess is if you wanted to underline something twice, that's what the answer is.
But I love that nerdiness about you.
Thank you.
Because that means that someone like me, I can lean into you the same way that you leaned into those 2 people because I know you're going to be the best.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. So when you think about how far you've come and everything that you've experienced, and I know that I get to talk to you sometimes when I'm like, I don't know what the heck I'm supposed to be doing right now. And you're like, you know what? Let's talk through it. And I always love that about you.
Thank you.
You give me the grace when sometimes you know that I know the answer, but you need to help me walk through it to find it together.
Mm-hmm.
So,
by the way, one of the biggest privileges I have in my life is to be behind the curtain with people before they take it and deliver it to someone else.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to get my head around it that way. But so thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be with you behind the curtain.
Yeah. Always.
Yeah.
So you've come through the ranks. You've lived like me through different seasons of what it means to be in HR. Mm-hmm. Started out as personnel and HR and human capital. I think we went through a phase of that. And gosh, I don't even know what else.
People. Now we're just a people.
Yeah. So what capabilities do you think HR has to have now that maybe you didn't have to have 10 years ago? What capabilities must HR leaders have now or learn now, build now that you didn't have to 10 years ago, 5 years ago?
I'm going to say this because some of it is that I didn't know I needed it 10 years ago, but it probably was true then too.
Okay.
I think the first is the ability to deal with ambiguity. And it's because nothing is predictable when you're dealing with people.
Never.
You can't judge somebody correctly just because you interviewed them for 2 hours.
Yeah.
You can't judge somebody quickly because you worked with them for 5 years when life circumstances shifted and you've never seen them through that season.
Right.
You got to be real comfortable to be like, I have no idea how we're going to get through this, and rely on the fact that you have before gotten through other things that you had no idea how you were going to get through. That ability to deal with ambiguity, to say, I don't know what I'm talking about right now, but I have the tools to learn more about it so that I can show up appropriately. I think that really matters. The second thing is I really lean into resourcefulness. And if I'm adding anybody on my team as a leader or a team member, I need to know that when you don't know something, that you won't automatically fizzle, that you will continue to be like, I am committed to figuring it out.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to make a phone call. I'm going to look something up. I'm not going to wait for somebody to be the authority on the topic. Right? I would rather you give me something to react to than to rely on me wholly to create it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I look for. And the third is the ability to think in terms of the other person's seat as it relates to cross-functional capability. So
that's deep.
I'm not a finance person, but I should care about what finance has to control.
Mm-hmm.
I should understand my impact on their work. I should care about how I manage my budget. I should be clear about what my needs are. I should understand why priorities are selected that aren't mine,
mm-hmm.
but advocate for them effectively. I feel like it's appropriate for me to understand the challenges that my operational partners are up against, so that whenever I'm like, okay, but tomorrow we're going to start our performance review cycle and it's going to take you 15 hours to get stuff done in 2 days. Well, that's not reflective of the life they're living.
Right.
Right. And I think there's a lot of ways that HR does that, where they put timelines or deadlines out there that, because the work is important, but it almost gets lost because it's impossible to execute.
Yeah.
So I think you got to be thinking about how you're affecting other people and how you all have to work together in order to make great things happen.
Yeah. So you've been in corporate,
Mm-hmm.
you've been in small,
Mm-hmm.
you've been in medium,
Mm-hmm.
you've
Fortune 5.
Fortune 5.
Mm-hmm.
You've been a solopreneur.
Yeah.
In that experience that you've had,
mm-hmm.
what are the greatest relationships that you feel like you have to have for your position to make a move, to be respected, to, so often the HR is you have to go to the principal's office kind of thing, right? So
biggest pet peeve.
Mine too.
Mm-hmm.
What, from your experience and where you sit, looking back on your knowledge, what has been the greatest relationship that you know that you have to have as soon as you go in
Mm-hmm.
to an organization?
It depends on the industry, but finance and IT are the two places that I really care about building some connection. Because whether or not I have the funds to execute something, whether or not I fully understand the impact of my decisions on the business output, and whether or not I have the right systems or tools to navigate it most efficiently,
Mm-hmm.
those relationships to me are really key. Really key. But I think the biggest one is the leaders that are on my team.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know that we're walking right foot, left foot together.
Yeah.
And that we are sharing a brand, that we are building something together, that we could speak for each other in a way of like, no, I know that's what you heard, but I know that person so well that I'm wondering if we're missing a sliver.
Yeah.
Because like I said, we're dealing with ambiguity every day. So I think having people that you know that you can trust is super important.
Yeah. And what two great positions to acknowledge that you have to align with and get to know
Mm-hmm.
for your impact to be meaningful the way that you want it to throughout the organization.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I love to hear from other leaders like yourself that started at the age of 12, what value do you think HR brings to the table? And how do you bring that value in a way that helps everyone else see it?
Yeah.
So it's not just HR and compliance and almost like you're the person that puts up the guardrails and tells me what I can't do.
That's right. Well, I think one of the values is almost every compliance expectation was created because companies were jerks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shout out to Eric Williamson there.
That's right. Shout out, Eric. So And the big thing is that if I can understand the spirit and intent of why the law exists or why the regulation is required, and I can make sure that we are doing that compliance effectively, HR's already paid for itself. Because the risks, like the one that Jason talked about, is probably more than what it would take to navigate that well, right? And that's true across the board. Everything else that we do is icing for the company, right? So if we are contributing new strategic thoughts, ways to approach something, ways to focus on things like transferable skills, or that we know the people that work there so well that we're like, you've got that problem. Have you talked to so-and-so? Because we're connectors in the organization that get to know people, what makes their blood pump and what they like to work on and where their talents lie. There's magic that starts to happen there when that is cranking out, right?
Yeah.
Which is why I think HR business partners, that just that job title has grown so significantly. When I started, it was HR generalist only. And that just meant they weren't going to staff a full HR team. So you were going to do all the things, right?
Jack of all trades.
That's right. But business partners that understand why those performance expectations matter, how that translates to your outcomes, understand the return on investment of the development activities they're suggesting because they understand where your team's going. Gosh, that's where absolute incredible work happens.
Yeah. That's great. So you told us a little bit about your the reason why you started. And you've talked a lot about what you've learned and how you've grown within your position. So what advice would you give someone in middle school or maybe a little older that is considering the work that you do? What would you tell them today that you wish someone would have told you then?
I had no idea the steps I was going to have to take to be able to reasonably affect the things that were the inspiration behind me starting in this career. And I remember the first several years, the shock that when I got my first HR job, that I wasn't even doing the stuff I did when I had an internship.
Yeah.
I was doing data entry. I was tracking attendance.
Yeah.
I was filing. And there's not a moment when I was deciding what I was going to major in and go into debt for in college where I was like, I sure hope I file.
And track attendance.
But the biggest thing for me is I've always told people that you got to lean into the relationships, network, gain sponsors, people that would say your name in rooms you aren't in.
Yeah.
Right? You gotta care about that. And every single file that I would work within, I read it, all of it. I got to see examples of how the work was done. I got to see other people that work there to see whether or not the things they put on their performance improvement plan, did it actually improve performance? Because I cared about stuff like that. So take every grain of what's offered you in terms of a requirement and see what it turns into in terms of nuggets that lay a foundation that allow somebody you respect to say, you know more than anybody I know about this topic.
Yeah.
It's because I've cared about every detail that's come across my desk.
Yeah. I mean, you read the FMLA.
I did, which I wouldn't advise, by the way. There's Google has helped a lot of things. Yeah.
Well, I want to tell you that I appreciate you and the commitment that you go to finding the right answer. And I say the right answer because we all have opinions.
Oh, absolutely.
And being able to discern when you know that you need to find the right answer and not just your opinion, that takes a big person and someone that's very self-aware. And I thank you for that.
Thank you.
So I think that you're closing out this chapter of files that we've committed to here at WTF, Workforce Therapy Files. You're the last one wrapping us up. So is there anything you want to close us out on that you think people need to know about Jamie Swaim?
The only thing I would like to put a pin in, if you don't mind, is that there's an inspiration story behind why I created Parcel. And part of it was because I worked in all of these corporate settings, and there would be times where I didn't have enough people on my team to do the things that were being asked and the time I was given to do it. And then for the moments where I needed to go and find someone, I kept running into consultants that all they had ever done was lived in the theoretical.
Yeah.
I knew that I was not going to hire those consultants. I was not going to partner with people who were using theory and textbook to drive meaningful outcomes for companies, especially small and medium businesses. And I'm really proud of the people that we brought into the Parcel fold over the years, because they've all been individuals that I know have walked the walk and that are not living in the utopian version of how you should be doing this, which is my biggest pet peeve about HR conferences.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to say that, because if you're in a situation where you don't know how to navigate something and you want somebody who's going to be real talk with you, I'm proud of what Parcel has done in that space.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And I'll attest to the work effort.
Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you.
So thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Jim, close that file.
Thanks for listening to the Workforce Therapy Files. We hope you learned something new, and we're thankful for the time that you spent with us today. If there's a topic you'd like us to discuss, reach out to us. Our contact information is listed in the show notes. Until next time, keep your head up.